Frostborne seed. The thing no one tells you about Antarctica is that the silence gets inside you. It doesn't just surround you, it seeps in, hollowing you out. Thought becomes echo. Breath feels borrowed. The emptiness starts to feel aware. That's the first thing I noticed before everything began to unravel. There were 5 of us at Outpost Havelock, a research station buried 40 meters beneath the transantarctic ice sheet, miles from any life, unreachable by storm or radio. Our mission was to study ancient glacial microorganisms, survivors of impossible environments. Dr. Mara Sohn, microbial ecologist. Dr. Lila Brenner, environmental biochemist. Jonas Hallberg, glacial geologist. Kate Alvaro, physicist. And me, Dr. Elias Thorne, biologist. Observer. We were alone. On day 12, we extracted an ice core from layer 9 to 21, an impossible depth. The ice was black, pressurized into glass. Deep inside it was a structure, not quite mineral, not quite organic, something in between. It resembled a seed, but no natural pattern spirals inward forever. It shouldn't have been there. It shouldn't have existed. We stored it in containment. That was our first mistake. Mara, the incubator. She was always the most intuitive, attuned to the rhythm of things. That sensitivity betrayed her. She touched the container. Just her fingertips. Then the dreams began. She described it whispering, not with sound, but with pressure. Like a pulse pushing her thoughts out of the way. She started murmuring in her sleep. And then stopped sleeping entirely. 3 days later, she walked into the mess hall barefoot, drenched in sweat despite the minus 30 degrees temperature. Her pupils had dilated into pitch-black voids, yet her irises had become a bright, glowing blue as if they were filled with liquid neon. Her skin shimmered with a pale, icy blue sheen. It was so thin, you could see faint veins beneath the surface, but they didn't glow red. They glowed silver, like mercury. And her belly. Not pregnant. Not human. Beneath her skin, pods had formed, not spherical, but latticed, like curled filaments inside pulsating sacs. They squirmed when we spoke, as if listening. Embryonic. Responsive. I can feel them growing, she said, gently stroking the side of her abdomen. They're so cold. So perfect. Her body temperature dropped to minus 12 degrees Celsius. Her blood had stopped freezing. Her cells had changed, silica reinforced, threaded with protein scaffolds like antifreeze fish, but denser. Stronger. Designed not to survive, but to optimize. She was no longer Mara. She was an incubator, a factory womb for something else. And she adored them. Lila, the guardian. Lila resisted it at first, snapping at shadows, cursing the hallucinations. She tried to burn the sample. Tried to cut off her own fingertips where the skin had started itching. She collapsed in the lab on day 16. By the time we reached her, she was already standing again, but she wasn't breathing. Her skin had hardened, glistening with a wet sheen like freshly hatched insect wings. A layer of glassy chitin had fused across her back and limbs, etched with shifting filigree. Beautiful. And human. Her spine had split open, birthing 2 braided columns of segmented cartilage that flexed like tendrils. Her limbs had grown, joints forming where none should be, her movements slow but precise. Her eyes were the worst. They weren't eyes anymore, but hexagonal pits, layered like a fly's compound vision. Thousands of lenses rotating, shimmering with refracted light as they focused. She saw everything. She became the guardian, stationed between Mara and the rest of us. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. Her skin emitted infrasound, a deep hum that made electronics stutter, made your teeth feel loose. If you got too close, your vision blurred. Your limbs felt like they belonged to someone else. But she didn't lash out. She watched. We weren't a threat. Not yet. Jonas, the beacon. Jonas was the most afraid, and maybe the bravest. When his skin began to crawl with patterns, when his spine started aching, he locked himself in storage and welded the door shut. "If I change, don't let me out," he said over the comms. "Promise me that." Me and Cade promised. 3 days passed. Then the door opened on its own. Inside, the temperature had dropped 30 degrees. Frost webbed the ceiling, not growing outward, but inward, toward Jonas. He was seated, cross-legged in the center of the room. His skin rippled like wax under slow heat. It didn't sit still, it quivered, constantly adapting shape. Beneath the surface, we saw structures, not organs, but rotating helixes of bone, like spires of DNA, spinning in independent directions. His ribs had grown outward, curling around him like antennae. His spine had crawled out of his back, thickened into a segmented root that burrowed straight through the steel floor. His throat was split vertically, open like a wound, looking not too different from a shark's gills, revealing not muscle, but a pulsing, resonating sac, a living transmitter. The sound he made wasn't audible. It was felt. In our bones. In our minds. Jonas had become a beacon. He wasn't calling for help. He was calling them. Cade, the conduit. Cade was the last to change. He believed in logic. Physics. Order. That belief collapsed. He told me he was going to destroy the seed. He took a flare gun with him and a pickaxe. Then he vanished. 2 days later, I found him in the cryo chamber, floating. Not hanging. Not levitating. Just suspended. Gravity forgot him. His body drifted inches above the floor, pulsing with a static shimmer. Light bent near him. Air twisted. Time felt wrong, like the world flickered every few seconds, resetting itself to keep him contained. His skin was thin, membrane stretched tight over impossible geometry. His bones had become Mobius strip-like loops, feeding into themselves. Organs blinked in and out of visibility like corrupted data. He wasn't fully here anymore. Cade had become a conduit, a tear in space through which something vast could reach in. When I stepped closer, my balance inverted. My lungs stopped inflating. Not because of fear, but because my body didn't know how to be alive near him. He never spoke again. His last act of resistance, and the emotions that influenced it, were neutralized with absolute efficiency. Me. Elias. I waited for the change. I studied every symptom, traced every step. I waited for my skin to crawl, for my cells to resonate, for my body to betray me. But it never came. I watched them, perfected, completed. Their forms impossibly beautiful and wrong, like sculptures meant for gods made of cold and silence. They were stronger. Denser. Their cells resonated instead of divided. Their nerves were no longer biological, but psionic filaments, pulsing with patterns older than language. Each had a role. The incubator, to create. The guardian, to protect. The beacon, to summon. The conduit, to open the door. A system. Self-sustaining. Self-replicating. I was the only one left untouched. At first, I thought I was immune. But I wasn't. I was incompatible. I didn't even qualify to be repurposed. I wasn't born defective or resistant. I was just chemically wrong. A rare protein marker in my cells, something synthetic from a childhood gene therapy, made me unreadable. To it, I was noise. A static cloaked misfire. Unusable tissue. Not immune. Not spared. Rejected. So I ran through the emergency shaft. Into the white maw of the storm. My breath turned to glass in my lungs. My fingers cracked. But still, I was me. Now I lie in the snow, watching my breath curl upward like smoke from a dying fire. Behind me, through the ice-glazed windows, they move in sync, elegant, unfeeling, beautiful. They are not monsters. They are functions, tools in a machine designed by something that thinks in terms of mega-atoms, not minutes. Something that muses in ice and structure and repurposed flesh. I wasn't spared. I was irrelevant. And beneath the ice, the entity waits.